a caucus race and a long tail. They were indeed a strange-looking party. The birds with wet feathers, the animals with their fur clinging close to them, and all dripping wet, angry, and uncomfortable. The first question, of course, was, how can we get dry again? They had a consultation about this, and after a few minutes, it seemed quite natural to Alice to find herself talking familiarly with them. Indeed, she had quite a long argument with the lorry, who at last turned sulky, and only repeated, "I am older than you, and I know better." And at this Alice wanted to know how old it was, but the lorry refused to tell its age. At last the mouse, who seemed to be a person of authority among them, called out, "Sit down, all of you, and listen to me. I'll soon make you dry again." They all sat down at once, in a large ring, with the mouse in the middle. Alice kept her eyes anxiously fixed on it, because she wanted to get dry as soon as possible and not to catch a cold. "Are you all ready?" said the mouse with an important air. "This is the driest thing I know." "Silence, please." William the Conqueror soon subdued the English, who wanted leaders. Edwin and Morcar, the Earls of Mercia and Northumbria. "Ugh," said the lorry, with a shiver. "I beg your pardon," said the mouse, frowning, but very politely. "Did you speak?" "Not I," said the lorry hastily. "I thought you did," said the mouse. "I go on." Edwin and Morcar, the Earls of Mercia and Northumbria, declared for him. And even Stigand, the patriotic Archbishop of Canterbury, found it advisable. "Found what?" said the duck. "Found it," the mouse answered quite sharply. "Of course you know what it means." "I know what it means well enough. When I find a thing," said the duck, "it's generally a frog or a worm. The question is, what did the Archbishop find?" The mouse did not notice this question, but hastily went on. "Found it advisable to go with Edgar Atheling, to meet William and offer him the crown. How are you getting on now, my dear?" it continued, turning to Alice as it spoke. "Still wet," said Alice sadly. "It doesn't seem to dry me at all." "In that case," said the dodo solemnly, rising to its feet, "I am for the immediate adoption of more energetic measures." "Speak English," said the eaglet. "I don't know the meaning of half those long words. And, what's more, I don't believe you do." And the eaglet bent down its head to hide a smile. Some of the other birds laughed softly. "What I was going to say," said the dodo in an offended tone, "was that the best thing to get us dry is a caucus race." Then he made a pause. "What is a caucus race?" said Alice. She didn't really want to know. But the pause meant the dodo was waiting for somebody to speak, and no one else was going to say anything. "Well," said the dodo, "the best way to explain it is to do it. I will tell you how the dodo managed it. Maybe you'll try it yourself, some winter day." First it marked out a race course, in a sort of circle. "The exact shape doesn't matter," it said. And then all the party placed themselves along the course, here and there. There was no 1, 2, 3, and away. But they began running when they liked, and stopped when they liked, so that it was not easy to know when the race was over. But after running for about half an hour or so they were quite dry again. And the dodo suddenly called out, "The race is over." And they all crowded round it, panting, and asking, "But who is the winner?" This question the dodo could not answer without a great deal of thought, and it sat for a long time with one finger pressed upon its forehead, the position in which you usually see Shakespeare, in the pictures of him, while the rest waited in silence. At last the dodo said, "Everybody is the winner, and all must have prizes." "But who will give us the prizes?" everyone asked. "She, of course," said the dodo, pointing to Alice with one finger. And the whole party at once crowded round her, calling out all together, "Prizes! Prizes!" Alice had no idea what to do, and in despair she put her hand in her pocket, and pulled out a box of sweets. and handed them round as prizes. There was exactly one for each of them. "But she must have a prize herself, you know," said the mouse. "Of course," the dodo answered very gravely. "What else do you have in your pocket?" he went on, turning to Alice. "Only a thimble," said Alice sadly. "Hand it over here," said the dodo. Then they all crowded round her once more, while the dodo solemnly presented the thimble, saying, "We ask you to accept this elegant thimble." And they all cheered. Alice thought it very absurd, but they all looked so grave that she did not dare to laugh, and, as she could not think of anything to say, she simply bowed, and took the thimble, looking as solemn as she could. The next thing was to eat the sweets. This caused some noise and confusion. The large birds could not taste their sweets, and the small ones choked. But it was over at last, and they sat down again in a ring, and asked the mouse, "Could you tell us something more, please? You promised to tell me your history, you know," said Alice. "And why it is you hate C and D," she added in a whisper. She was anxious not to offend the mouse again. "Mine is a long and a sad tale," said the mouse, turning to Alice and sighing. "It is a long tale, certainly," said Alice in surprise, looking down at the mouse's tail. "But why do you call it sad?" And she kept on puzzling about it while the mouse was speaking, so that her idea of the tale was something like this. Fury said to a mouse that he met in the house, "Let us both go to law. I will prosecute you. Come, I'll take no denial. We will have a trial. For really this morning I've nothing to do," said the mouse to the cur. "Such a trial, dear sir, with no jury or judge would be wasting our breath." "I'll be judge, I'll be jury," said cunning old Fury. "I'll try the whole case, and condemn you to death." "You are not attending," said the mouse to Alice severely. "What are you thinking of?" "I beg your pardon," said Alice very humbly. "It is the fifth bend, I think." "It is not," cried the mouse, sharply and very angrily. "A knot," said Alice, always ready to help, and looking anxiously about her. "Oh, please, let me help to undo it." "I will do nothing of the sort," said the mouse, getting up and walking away. "You offend me by talking such nonsense." "I didn't mean it," pleaded poor Alice. "But it is so easy to offend you, you know." The mouse only growled in reply. "Please come back and finish your story," Alice called after it. And the others said, "Yes, please do." But the mouse only shook its head impatiently, and walked a little quicker. "What a pity it didn't stay," sighed the lorry, as soon as it was quite out of sight. And an old crab took the opportunity of saying to her daughter, "Ah, my dear, let this be a lesson to you never to lose your temper." "Hold your tongue, Ma," said the young crab, a little sharply. "You're enough to try the patience of an oyster." "What a pity our Dinah isn't here to bring it back," said Alice aloud, addressing nobody in particular. "And who is Dinah?" asked the lorry. Alice answered eagerly. She was always ready to talk about her pet. "Dinah's our cat. And she's so good at catching mice, you can't think. And oh, it is so great to see her hunting after the birds. She can eat a little bird as soon as she looks at it." This speech really impressed the party. Some of the birds hurried off at once, and a canary called out in a trembling voice to its children, "Come away, my dears. It's high time you were all in bed." On various pretexts they all moved off, and Alice found herself all alone. "Why did I mention Dinah?" she said to herself sadly. "Nobody seems to like her down here, and I'm sure she's the best cat in the world. Oh, my dear Dinah, will I ever see you again?" And here poor Alice began to cry again, because she felt very lonely and unhappy. But soon she again heard a soft pattering of footsteps in the distance, and she looked up eagerly, half hoping that the mouse was coming back to finish his story.
Вам нравится учить английский с нами? Тогда подпишитесь на наш канал, чтобы не пропустить новое видео. И не забудьте поставить лайк. До новых встреч!